UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall isn't one to hold back his thoughts, and when it comes to the BMF, he's not exactly sold on its significance. As Aspinall prepares to carry the torch in the post-John Jones era as the undisputed king of the heavyweight division, he's also keeping a close eye on the rest of the MMA world. That includes the UFC 318 main event, where Max Holloway and Dustin Porier are set to collide in a trilogy bout with the BMF belt on the line. But for Aspinall, the belt doesn't add much to the legacy of either fighter, because in his view, their names already carry enough weight. Do you want my honest opinion? I mean, it's a title, but it's not a world championship, so what are we doing? Aspinall said during an interview with TNT Sports. These guys don't need a title. They're two legends of the sport. Look at the name value, even look at the rankings, look at the amount of fights they've got, look at the shorts they're wearing. We don't really need a title on the line, to be honest. While the BMF belt was originally created as a one-off novelty for Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz at UFC 244, it's since become a recurring symbol for fan-favorite fighters and high-action matchups. Still, Aspinall remains unconvinced that it holds the same value as a traditional championship. I'm going to give you a controversial answer again, Aspinall added. My opinion, it doesn't matter what it says in front of the word world champion. If you have the words UFC and title on it, you're a champion, regardless. He also showed respect for Dustin Porier, calling him perhaps the best fighter never to win an undisputed title. Is he the best fighter to ever not win an undisputed title? I would say definitely Dustin Porier. He's had such a respectable career that I don't think the title matters for somebody like him in my opinion. Aspinall's words carry weight, especially as someone who knows what it takes to capture a real championship. And while the BMF belt continues to create buzz among fans, fighters like Aspinall remind us that true legacy goes far beyond titles, novelty or otherwise. There was no mistaking Paulo Costa's message during the UFC 318 pre-fight press conference. He wants Khamzat Chimaev in the octagon, and he wants him badly. Costa didn't bother with subtlety, speaking with the kind of intensity that made it clear this wasn't just another name on a list. With several recent fights slipping through his fingers in tough decisions to Robert Whittaker and Sean Strickland, Costa sounded like a man who's done letting opportunities drift past. This, he emphasized, is personal. According to Costa, Chimaev crossed a line that had nothing to do with rankings or hype. He claims that Chimaev messaged his partner Tamara Alves on Instagram with disrespectful, provocative comments, and Costa's anger about it was evident. He said Chimaev told Tamara she should look for a better man, implying Costa wasn't good enough. For Costa, that kind of behavior goes far beyond gamesmanship. It's a matter of pride, of respect, and it's something he's not willing to brush aside. He said Chimaev should have said something directly to him instead of sneaking into his girlfriend's DMs, calling him a coward for avoiding confrontation. The tension, already high between the two, now seems to be boiling over into the realm of a grudge match that transcends the usual hype cycle. While Chimaev has been on a dominant rise through the UFC's ranks and is slated for a title shot against Dricus du Plessis at UFC 319, Costa isn't interested in waiting around for the rankings to line up. He wants the fight now, regardless of belts or contender status. Costa's motivation is clear. It's not about chasing a number next to his name or padding a resume. It's about demanding a fight with a man who he feels disrespected him on a personal level. Despite the animosity, Costa took time to credit Tamara Alves, saying she's been instrumental in keeping him grounded during chaotic stretches of his career. He acknowledged how important it is to have someone who sees the daily grind and still supports him fully. He said she keeps him focused, reminding him of what he's capable of even when things have felt uncertain. That emotional anchor has helped him stay on course despite setbacks. And now, all that focus seems to be channeled toward a potential clash with Chimaev, a fight Costa has turned into more than just business. It's vengeance, pride, and unfinished business, all rolled into one. And he made it clear to everyone listening, this fight isn't optional, it's inevitable. Dustin Porier isn't waiting for mixed martial arts to decide when he's done. He's choosing to step away on his own terms, with his chin up and legacy intact. After more than a decade of thrilling battles and unforgettable moments inside the octagon, Poirier is set to walk away from the sport that shaped his life. But not before one last firefight. In what he's calling his final appearance, Poirier will headline UFC 318 this Saturday in his hometown of New Orleans, facing longtime rival Max Holloway in a BMF title bout that serves as both a farewell and a rubber stamp on one of the most action-packed careers the UFC has ever seen. At 36, Poirier is still proving he belongs at the top. Just weeks ago, he pushed dominant lightweight champion Islam Makhachev deep into the fifth round before finally succumbing to a choke. It was the kind of performance that reminded fans Poirier hasn't lost a step. But that's exactly why he's stepping away now, before age and wear strip away the fire he's known for. "I don't want the sport to chew me up," he told reporters at UFC 318 Media Day. "I want to walk away. I don't want it to retire me." Poirier emphasized how he hopes people remember him not just for wins and titles, but for the grit he brought every time out. "Anytime you saw my name on a fight card, you knew it was going to be a war. I hope people remember me as a warrior. I didn't cut corners, I always gave it my all." Poirier's record speaks for itself. Over 30 UFC appearances. Iconic fights against some of the sport's most dangerous names: Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, Eddie Alvarez, Charles Oliveira, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and his career-defining trilogy with Conor McGregor. Few fighters have consistently delivered the kind of drama and violence that Poirier has brought to the cage. Every fight felt like a moment. Every moment felt earned. And now, in poetic fashion, he gets to close out his career against a familiar foe. Poirier enters his third fight with Max Holloway, already 2-0 in their series, having submitted the Hawaiian in 2012 and earned a decision win in a 2019 Fight of the Year contender. Their final clash carries more than just the BMF belt. It's the closing chapter in a rivalry that's quietly stretched over 13 years. It's also Poirier's last dance, a chance to end his story on his own terms, in front of his own people, with the same heart and fire that made him a fan favorite from the start. Regardless of the outcome on Saturday night, Dustin Porier will step away with more than just a decorated record. He leaves with the respect of his peers, the admiration of the fans, and the knowledge that he defined what it means to be a fighter, not just through victories, but through the relentless will to give everything he had, every single time. After fake news being spread via social media, it turns out there's no confirmation that Conor McGregor actually failed a drug test, at least not in any credible report. What we do know is this: McGregor has claimed he rejoined the UFC's drug testing pool to gear up for a return on the rumored White House card. However, UFC DFSI records show he hasn't actually submitted a sample yet this year. His last recorded test was over 10 months ago, back in September 2024. The rumor about a failed test seems to stem from unverified social media posts, for example on X, repeating the claim. But without any official confirmation or mainstream reporting, it remains just speculation. So bottom line, there's no hard evidence McGregor failed a drug test. Instead, public records indicate he hasn't even re-entered the testing pool yet. If you're curious about his UFC comeback timeline, the key thing to watch for is confirmed test submissions, not rumors. Paulo Costa didn't mince words at UFC 318 Media Day. He wants Khamzat Chimaev in the cage and wants that fight not just to settle a score, but to make it personal. His fiery call-out stemmed from more than competition. Costa claims Chimaev crossed a line by sending disrespectful messages to his partner on Instagram, igniting what Costa sees as a deeply personal feud. Whether Chimaev wins or loses his next outing, Costa insists the fight between them is inevitable, and for him, it's about more than rankings or title shots. It's about pride, respect, and retribution. While Costa's determination to face Chimaev adds fuel to an already volatile matchup, another name suddenly re-entered the conversation: Israel Adesanya. The last stylebender has made it clear he's not committed to one single route for his return after suffering a knockout loss to Nasruddin Imavov earlier this year. Though Adesanya has publicly stated a desire to avenge his loss to Sean Strickland, he's also voiced skepticism that the rematch will come together soon. That hesitation has left him open to other possibilities, including another showdown with Costa, assuming Costa gets back on track. During an appearance on his Freestyle Bender YouTube channel, Adesanya laid out a simple path. If Costa wins at UFC 318, a rematch could be on the table. But Adesanya didn't stop at setting conditions. He critiqued Costa's past approach and demanded a shift in mentality. He encouraged Costa to be focused, avoid distractions, and approach the next fight with discipline rather than showmanship, referencing their UFC 253 clash, where Costa's antics backfired and allowed Adesanya to cruise to a dominant win. The outcome of UFC 318's co-main event between Costa and Roman Kopylov could change the middleweight landscape considerably. Adesanya, siding with the oddsmakers, picked Kopylov to win by decision. He praised Kopylov's dynamic striking, strong footwork, and excellent takedown defense, qualities he believes could neutralize Costa's power-based game. But Costa remains a dangerous presence in the division. Despite being the underdog, his experience and history of facing elite competition could offer him a surprising edge. If he can channel his intensity in the right direction and secure a win, not only could he reignite a high-profile rematch with Adesanya, but he may also bring himself back into serious title contention. The stakes are high, and the noise around Costa has rarely been louder. Whether it's Chimaev or Adesanya next, his path depends entirely on how he performs at UFC 318. Max Holloway's new life at lightweight has made him acutely aware of how the division operates, both inside and outside the octagon. No longer cutting down to 145, the former featherweight king is fully committed to his run at 155 pounds, and with a massive fight against Dustin Porier at UFC 318, he knows a win could skyrocket him toward another crack at UFC Gold. Yet Holloway also understands that merit alone won't necessarily get you there, not in a sport where marketability can outweigh rankings and records. He's seen the writing on the wall. Paddy Pimblett, despite limited top-tier wins, is the name currently being floated as Ilia Topuria's first title challenger, thanks to a tense post-fight stare-down and a growing rivalry. Holloway isn't surprised. He's been in the game long enough to know that the UFC thrives on moments and personalities as much as it does on statistics and resumes. It's why he doesn't seem bitter, even though he's arguably more deserving than Pimblett based on resume alone. Instead, he sees it as just part of the business. "We're entertainers," Holloway said plainly, recognizing that the promotional machine favors those who move the needle. It's not always about how many ranked opponents you've beaten, it's about how many eyes you bring to the fight. Whether it's a post-fight call-out or a viral moment on social media, Holloway gets it. The louder you are, the faster you move. In this game, the squeaky wheel doesn't just get the oil, it might just get a title shot. Still, Holloway isn't dismissing Pimblett's chances if the fight with Topuria does get made. While the odds would likely be stacked against the Liverpudlian, Max has too much respect for the unpredictable nature of MMA to count anyone out. He's been in enough wars and seen enough upsets to know that anything can happen when the cage door shuts. People questioned Pimblett's legitimacy when he was matched with Michael Chandler, but Holloway pointed out that Pimblett shocked many by using wrestling to beat the more established grappler, showing that, despite his brash persona, he can rise to the occasion. "Everybody can say we saw Paddy get cracked," Holloway said, referencing moments where Pimblett looked vulnerable. "I saw myself get cracked a bunch of times, and when Ilia hit me, we saw what we saw." He's referring to his own battle-hardened experience, but also to the fact that fighting isn't math, there are no guarantees, and the margins are razor-thin. Anyone with the right mindset and preparation can pull off the upset on the right night. As the lightweight division heats up, Holloway remains a major player in the mix, win or lose, against Poirier. And even if Paddy Pimblett leaps the line to face Topuria, Holloway is watching closely. He's not dismissing the hype, but he's also not blind to the grind that it takes to stay at the top. Holloway might not be shouting the loudest, but make no mistake, his presence is still felt, and a win on Saturday could throw his name right back into the title conversation, whether the rankings agree or not. Pico isn't content to sit on the sidelines for long. After building his name in Bellator, with highlight reel knockouts and gritty performances, he was set for a massive UFC debut against Movsar Evloev at UFC Abu Dhabi on July 26. It was a dream matchup for a former top prospect finally making the jump to the UFC. Evloev, undefeated at 19-0, was the perfect dance partner for a statement win. But that momentum came to a halt when the Russian contender pulled out due to injury, derailing what would have been a pivotal bout in the featherweight title picture. Patricio "Pitbull" Freire volunteered to take Evloev's place, but in the end, the promotion opted to pull Pico from the card entirely, rather than scramble for a replacement. Pico, who had stayed quiet in the immediate aftermath, finally broke his silence with a pointed message on social media. Clearly frustrated, he expressed disappointment over the cancellation but remained focused and optimistic about quickly getting back on track. More than just venting, his post carried a direct call to action. He wants the Evloev fight rebooked as soon as possible, ideally at UFC 319 in Chicago on August 16. In his own words, Pico wasn't about to sugarcoat the situation. Training camps are costly, emotionally and financially, and he's ready to earn his keep inside the octagon, not wait around on the outside. The message was firm but fair. He wished Evloev well but made it clear that this delay can't drag on. He wants to fight, and the window to rebook it appears open. Though UFC 319 already features an attention-grabbing main event between Dricus du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev for the middleweight crown, there's still room to bolster the main card. With 11 fights currently announced, there appears to be a gap that Pico and Evloev could realistically fill, especially considering the intrigue surrounding Pico's long-awaited debut and the contender implications of the matchup. For the UFC, slotting that fight in would add even more heat to a stacked night of action and give Pico the grand entrance he's been chasing. The ball is now in the UFC's court. Will they give the fans what they want and let one of the sport's most hyped prospects finally make his mark on the sport's biggest stage, or will Pico be left waiting again for his breakout moment? Belal Muhammad recently opened up about an ongoing topic in MMA that refuses to go away: the idea of the UFC introducing more weight classes. It's a discussion that's hovered in the background for years, but Muhammad's perspective feels particularly timely. He pointed out that there's a sizable group of fighters who exist in that awkward middle ground, guys who are too big for lightweight but too small for welterweight, or fighters who struggle to bulk up enough for middleweight yet suffer from brutal cuts, trying to stay at welterweight. That 15 to 20 pound gap between some divisions makes it hard for many athletes to compete at their best without compromising their health. Muhammad thinks that introducing more divisions, especially something like a 165 pound weight class, could go a long way in fixing that. Not only would it give more fighters a chance to fight in their natural weight range, but it might also allow athletes to stay more active throughout the year, since they wouldn't be stuck in long, draining cycles of cutting and recovering. He acknowledged that even if the UFC did add more weight classes, the issues around weight cutting wouldn't magically vanish. There would still be fighters trying to shave down as far as they can to get a size advantage on fight night. Still, he believes that the potential benefits, more flexibility, more title fights, and more longevity in careers, make it worth considering. This isn't just an isolated opinion either. Rafael Fiziev recently made waves by saying flat out that the UFC is preparing to announce a 165 pound division, insisting that this is not a rumor. That claim hasn't been officially confirmed, but it has added fuel to an already smoldering fire. With TKO now in control of UFC operations, some fans and fighters alike wonder if a shift in leadership might also mean a shift in philosophy, especially when it comes to growing the roster of divisions and creating more marquee matchups. However, there's still a major hurdle in the form of Dana White. The UFC CEO has repeatedly stated in no uncertain terms that a 165-pound weight class is off the table. At one point, he said it would never happen as long as I'm here. His reasoning has always centered around keeping the structure of the divisions clear, competitive, and deep, rather than spreading talent thin across too many weight classes. For him, simplicity and depth beat expansion and fragmentation. Despite that stance, Muhammad's comments reflect a sentiment that's becoming more common among fighters, especially those caught between divisions. They're the ones feeling the physical consequences of the current structure, and their voices are beginning to resonate more loudly. For now, there's no indication that the UFC is planning to shake up the format. But as pressure builds from athletes and the competitive landscape continues to evolve, what once seemed impossible could one day become inevitable. Dricus du Plessis doubling down on his grappling preparation as his title defense against Khamzat Chimaev draws near. With the UFC 319 main event set for August 16 in Chicago, the reigning middleweight champion is reportedly pushing himself through grueling training sessions, so much so that his coach Morn Visser put money on the line to prove a point. According to du Plessis, after a 2-hour training session, Visser offered $10,000 to anyone in the gym who could take the champion down. Nobody succeeded. This bold claim has caught the attention of the MMA community, including former multi-division UFC title challenger Sonnen. Speaking on his YouTube channel, Sonnen praised du Plessis' grappling pedigree, noting that the South African trained with his national Greco-Roman wrestling team, similar to respected names like Randy Couture, Dan Henderson, and Ilia Topuria. Sonnen emphasized that du Plessis saying, "You can't take me down," is a serious statement, especially considering the elite opposition he's preparing to face. On the other side, Chimaev is leaving no stone unturned either. The undefeated Dagestani fighter has been refining his already dominant wrestling game under Olympic-level coaches, gearing up to impose his trademark pressure and ground control. Known for overwhelming his opponents early, Chimaev's wrestling may be the key to dethroning du Plessis. However, Sonnen's commentary wasn't without hiccups. The initial title of his YouTube video mistakenly referenced Sean Strickland instead of Chimaev. Fans quickly pointed out the error, prompting playful jabs at Sonnen's production team. Some joked about applying for the role of a more attentive virtual assistant, while others referenced Sonnen's own legendary trash talk from his TUF stint with Wanderlei Silva. Despite the minor misstep, the anticipation for du Plessis versus Chimaev continues to build, with both camps showcasing confidence in their respective strengths. The $10,000 takedown challenge may have been symbolic, but it speaks to du Plessis' belief in his ability to stay upright against one of the most relentless grapplers in the sport.